Hello, Narelle Chenery here from Miessence. Welcome to everything you ever wanted to know about sunscreens, UV, SPF, aging, and skin cancer. We know a few things about ultraviolet radiation. We know it causes skin cancers, sunburn, it suppresses the immune system, and it causes skin aging. In fact, scientists believe that 90% of perceived skin aging is caused by UV damage. UVA rays constitute 90 to 95% of the ultraviolet light reaching the Earth. They have a relatively long wavelength, between 320 and 400 nanometers, so they are low energy but deeply penetrating into the skin. UVA rays suppress the immune system and cause skin aging. A for aging. UVB rays are shorter wavelength. They're 290 to 320 nanometers, so they're higher energy but less penetrating into the skin and are the primary cause of sunburn. So that's UVB, burn. UVB is strongest at the equator and during summer months. In contrast, UVA is constant throughout the year and even penetrates glass, so we get exposed to UVA, aging radiation, at work, at home, and even in the car. Skin cancer is the most common cancer, accounting for nearly half of all cases in the US and an astonishing 80% of all newly diagnosed cancers in Australia. Even though more people are using sunscreens than ever before, the incidence of skin cancer continues to rise. In fact, a number of studies conducted in the 1990s reported higher, not lower, incidence of the deadliest form of skin cancer, malignant melanoma, among frequent sunscreen users. There are three major forms of skin cancer. Squamous cell carcinoma, which is a slow-growing, treatable cancer. It's the second most common at about 16% of cases and primarily affects people who sunburn easily, they tan poorly, and have blue eyes and red or blonde hair. The most common skin cancer is basal cell carcinoma, accounting for about 80% of skin cancers. It occurs most frequently in men who spend a great deal of time outdoors and primarily produces lesions on the head and neck. Malignant melanoma is the rarest form of skin cancer, accounting for 4% of cases, but it's the most deadly. It's more prevalent among city dwellers than those who work outdoors. It doesn't occur necessarily in sun-exposed areas of the body, and it's thought to be linked to severe cases of sunburn in childhood and adolescence. Research into the links between sunscreen use and skin cancer by the International Agency for Research on Cancer has concluded that sunscreen use may decrease the occurrence of squamous cell carcinoma. Sunscreen use has no demonstrated influence on basal cell carcinoma, and sunscreen use may increase the risk of malignant melanoma. In 1991, Professor Johan Moen of the Norwegian Cancer Institute made an astounding discovery. He found that the yearly incidence of melanoma in Norway had increased by 350% for men and 440% for women during the period of 1957 to 1984. He determined that there had been no change in the ozone layer over this period of time, so he concluded in his report in the British Journal of Cancer by stating, "Ozone depletion is not the cause of increase in skin cancers." So if the ozone layer has not changed significantly except at the poles, then what is causing this enormous increase in skin cancers? The Australian experience provides the first clue. The rise in melanoma has been exceptionally high in Queensland, where the medical establishment has long and vigorously promoted the use of sunscreens. Queensland now has more incidences of melanoma per capita than any other place in the world. Worldwide, the greatest rise in melanoma has been experienced in countries where chemical sunscreens have been heavily promoted. Doctors Cedric and Frank Garland of the University of California are the foremost opponents of the use of chemical sunscreens. The Garland brothers strongly believe that the increased use of chemical sunscreens is the primary cause of the skin cancer epidemic. They emphasise that people using sunscreens tend to stay longer in the sun because they don't get burnt, therefore developing a false sense of security. Sunscreens are designed to protect against sunburn, that's UVB radiation, and generally provide little to no protection of UVA, which is the most damaging. Sunscreens come in two forms, chemical and physical. The chemical sunscreens absorb UVB radiation, burning. The physical sunscreens reflect UVB and UVA rays. The concept of SPF is actually quite misleading. It's really important to understand that SPF only measures UVB protection, burning. It does not measure UVA at all. And doubling an SPF does not give you double the protection. For example, an SPF 15 blocks out or absorbs 94% of UVB rays, whereas an SPF of 30 absorbs 97% of UVB rays. If your sunscreen doesn't contain a UVA protector, you'll be exposing yourself to the most damaging UVA aging radiation without even getting burnt. So knowing which ingredients protect against UVA damage is the key to achieving optimal protection. The latest research has begun to discover some serious problems with the chemicals used in sunscreens. Most chemical sunscreens contain benzophenone or its derivatives, oxybenzone. Benzophenone is one of the most powerful free radical generators known to man. Benzophenone is activated by ultraviolet light, sun. To my way of thinking, incorporating one of the most powerful free radical generators known to man into a sunscreen, and free radical damage is known to cause skin aging and cancer, may not be the smartest idea. But zinc oxide is the closest thing to a total sunblock on the market today. It uniformly covers between 290 to 380 nanometers, therefore protecting against UVB and UVA radiation. No other sunscreen ingredient provides broader protection. And unlike many chemical sunscreens, zinc oxide is never irritating. In fact, it's categorized by the US FDA, Food and Drug Administration, as a Category 1 skin protectant, meaning that it's safe for compromised or environmentally challenged skin. Zinc oxide has over a 300-year history of safety with no known adverse reactions, which is why it's often used to treat babies. Many people believe that zinc oxide and titanium dioxide provide equally good sun protection, but this is not true. Although both agents are inorganic sunscreens, mineral pigments, they provide different levels of protection. Titanium dioxide protects against UVB and only a small amount of UVA, not the whole spectrum like zinc oxide. The other issue with titanium dioxide is that it's unstable in the presence of UV light and degrades to form free radicals. So for the best sun protection, choose a product that contains zinc oxide and has an SPF of 15 or more. But we have to remember that exposure to UV radiation is not all bad. Most of the body's vitamin D supply, in fact 75% of it, is generated by the skin's exposure to UVB rays. So it's really important to expose ourselves to UVB early morning and late afternoon to get that vitamin D supply. Using a sunscreen drastically reduces the amount of UVB we can absorb, and low levels of vitamin D are known to increase the incidence of cancer of the breast and colon, and may also accelerate growth of melanoma. Dr. Gordon Ainsley in California believes that the use of sunscreen causes more deaths than it prevents. Dr. Ainsley estimates that 30,000 cancer deaths in the United States alone could be prevented each year if people adopted a regimen of regular, moderate, safe sun exposure. So here's the bottom line on safe sun practices, some do's and don'ts for you.